Good morning, folks. 7th of February. I actually have an open day, so I'm going to get some important stuff done. I don't take real good care of myself. I don't back myself very well. Don't go to bat for myself very hard. There's some advantages and disadvantages to such things. One is I probably don't get creamed as much as I would otherwise. But I have to tell you, you're tuned in to the Dr. Kent Show, giving psychology away. My other channel, Awakening Israel, I finally got the notice in an email from YouTube that I can't upload for 2 weeks. And they also tell me their policy that if I try to circumvent it, that'll be a violation. And so I won't be probably doing any Bible studies for a little while because that's what I do on that channel. So I'm going to try to abide by YouTube's community guidelines. However, I have to point out that YouTube's guidelines don't just suck. They don't make any sense and they're counterproductive. Let me put it this way. I was trained as a scientist. I know you think psychology is a soft science. It's actually quite a hard science. It's difficult, and it actually has some incredible foundations to it. The guidelines and all that for research are pretty damn rigid, especially when you're trying to learn them and trying to implement them. Believe me, you get whacked every which way you turn. So you have to learn a lot of classifications, a lot of thinking in order to be able to prevail in the science of psychology. And one of the things I learned kind of in the hard way, I ended up between two supervisors who had a bit of a conflict with each other. And one of them was practicing science based upon consensus. And that was the one I was under for an internship. And unfortunately, science is not based on consensus. Dictatorships are based on consensus. They can be based on consensus, but science is never based upon consensus. And it's always being challenged. The experiments are always being replicated, redone again to make sure we got it right, to see if there might be something else contributing to the outcomes, if there are any more confounding variables, or if we can, come up with a little bit more accurate data. And so I found myself practicing the prevailing model across the whole country at the time. And it was an ADHD. I should remember all these terms, but I haven't used them in a while. It was oppositional defiant disorder and medicating the hell out of children and screwing them up with the medications. And I ended up on the wrong side of that argument. And I got corrected. I'm so glad I got corrected. At the same time I was in the internship, I became a member of, I want to say Peter Bregan, but really it's Ginger Bregan's baby, the Center for the Study of Psychiatry and Psychology, which became the International Center for the Study of Psychiatry and Psychology, which was basically the conscience of modern mental health practices. And we had plenty on our conscience, believe me. And what we discovered is that what I discovered through the help of people on that listserv who were very, they tolerated my young inquisitive butt, and they handled me kind of gingerly, the guys that had been around for a while, and they challenged my thinking quite regularly. And I mean, I even had nurses that were lording it over me there and telling me what was up and what was down on some of the research. I mean, I was getting an education all the way around. For people in Hawaii, I was in Mississippi at the time, from around the planet. We had people writing books like The Therapeutic State. Yeah. Well, I found out that behavioral treatments were much more powerful than chemical treatments, and that we could get good outcomes. I had a lot of single mothers coming in that had problems with the school system, not so much with their own children. You had teachers who insisted that child was not going to be in their classroom unless they were on medications. So we had practicing medicine without a license. We had educational abuse, child abuse. We had all that going, and there was a fellow who wrote a wonderful book. Oh my God, he tolerated me pretty good. What was his name? Michael Cuban. Anyway, I recommended that book, and these people would go and buy the book for about $15, and they would read it, and quite often they'd come back and saying, "I can do this." And I remember some of these young single mothers coming back confident and enthusiastic, saying they can do this. And of course, I sat there and conspired with them against the school teacher, because we had to win that one over, and the teacher was the problem. It wasn't the student. And of course, we couldn't do any confrontational sort of a matter of this. We had to actually do a little psychological operation. And I told the mothers, I said, this is your private matter. They don't have any business in this. So I want you to look at your teacher, and I want you to look her right in the eyes and say, "We're getting professional help." And I don't want you to say anything more. That's all I want you to say to the teacher. "We're getting professional help." And leave it, because the teacher will assume that the child is on medications and the child is getting the best professional help, which the teacher knew better about and recommended anyway, even though the teacher's a dumbass. I love the Pygmalion effect. My God. Wow. Look, science doesn't happen by consensus. And the World Health Organization is not ruling by consensus. They're ruling by dictate, because they're all controlled by the same jackasses. Our own central federal communist government is dictating all this bullshit to us through all these organizations, all these tentacles they have into us, all the way around. Yeah, I know I sound paranoid, don't I? Big conspiracy, right? Well, it is. It really is. And it's really going on. They're all connected. They're all in on it. They're doing the same bullshit. And you have mostly stupid-ass blind people being controlled by other people that are not quite so stupid, not quite so blind, but they're probably controlled and blind in other ways. So you definitely have a world in which the blind leads the blind. And so what YouTube did is they gave me a strike because I went against the World Health Organization, the United Nations, which I'd like to, well, as my mother said to us kids, you're not worth the powder to blow you to hell. Mom had some interesting sayings for sure, but I wish I was president. That United Nations would be out of here. They wouldn't be allowed in the country. Everybody associated with that would be under arrest. Yeah, I'd be a good dictator, wouldn't I? Look, they've used that organization to screw up the world. And at this point, it's full-blown war. It's an atypical kind of war, but that's what's going on. So YouTube gave me a strike. Do I deserve a strike? Oh, no. YouTube needs to change their community guidelines to fit me, the scientists. We don't rule by consensus. We don't, that's a dictatorship. That's communism. That's community. You violated our communist standards is what it comes down to. Community standards. So you don't practice science by consensus. You certainly don't help the individual in front of you by practicing by consensus. And I learned that when I was an intern. I learned that, and I was so grateful for it. And Louis Masser was right. I missed those days. They were the best days of my life. I lived with a mattress on the floor, and I had a cardboard box with my alarm clock and a light on it next to the bed for a nightstand. 400 square foot. Man, it was my place. It was small. I mean, I had one chair in there at the table. Previous tenant left it behind, so I got to use it, provided I agreed to leave it behind. Nice old lady running the place there. She actually was pretty nice. She was a tough old bird, man. She had some standards. And anyway, I kind of miss being in Mississippi. Kind of close and tight. People knew your business. People were into your stuff. But talk about community supports And of course, I was the last to know. It's the way it always is. And my fellow master's level therapists, who had a lot more experience, a lot more on the ball than I had going for me, would constantly chide me and guide me and let me know what I didn't know and inform me about the family situation and all that. And even though they're telling me, I still had to have my hand held a little bit and some guidance. Had a lot of older women there who were guiding me, and those people had some fun with me. They really did. They played some jokes on me that were pretty rough. I mean, I'll never forget the time in which I had an intake from the mental hospital from inpatient treatment. And I did not have any windows in my office. It was totally bricked up. And I mean, it was a little closet, basically a large closet that had no clothes in it. And the client stuffed chair was right next to the door, and my desk was kind of in the corner, so I was kind of trapped. The client was between me and the door. And this was one of those times when I bolted. I bolted for that damn door. I couldn't wait to get out of that room. And everybody was out in the hallway waiting, and they laughed their asses off at me. They had set me up. Jeez. Oh, my God. I had a young woman, and she was tall, thin, beautiful, of age, mind you, but a client is a client, you know. And I think the one thing I appreciate more than anything else was the boundaries that those folks instilled upon me and the ethics and all that. They never let up on me. And I had a lot of years there, actually, compared to most. That helped me. It helped form me as a psychologist. It helped me to become what I became, which was very effective and quite good. My talent was kind of wasted in the prisons, to be honest with you. Anyway, everybody there knew and heard the word on this young woman that was coming in that she couldn't keep her clothes on. And she came in wearing a sweater, and she was very beautiful. I mean, I can't remember. I think she was like 5'10". I mean, she was tall, at least 5'10". Long brown hair, a young girl who had some troubles and had some troubles in her family life too that other people had to point out to me because I was too dumb to suspect that kind of stuff. It's Mississippi. Some of what you hear about Mississippi is true, but then everywhere's Mississippi today, if you know what I mean. Anyway, they all waited out there and they busted out laughing because I ran out of the room when she started taking her clothes off. I mean, when she started taking the sweater off and started going for it, I hit that door as fast as I could. I was not going to sit there and be in that room with that woman getting naked. I had no idea that was coming at all. But apparently it was very compulsive. She acted on impulse, and they had trouble keeping her clothes on in the hospital, inpatient hospital anyway. I met the mother. The mother was tall, very beautiful as well, very lovely. These were attractive, very attractive women. And I had the daughter. I don't know if she was 19 or she was 23, or I can't remember her age, but she was pretty young. And what did she want in particular? She wanted a man. She wanted love in her life, and she had a psychiatric diagnosis with some heavy medications, and I did a little coaching with her. And the client has the power. The psychologist doesn't have the power. When you're out in public, you can't acknowledge that relationship. If the client wants to acknowledge the relationship, you're stuck. You're screwed. You don't know what to do. Do you acknowledge it, or you just say, I can't admit anything? It's like the FBI. I can't discuss anything that might be under investigation. Anyway, I saw her in public months later, and she was following around this tall, strapping guy. He was way over 6 feet tall. A young fellow with some strength to him. And I was in a clothing store on the west side of Tupelo on Main Street. That's all I remember. And she was following this young man around. She got what she wanted. And she winked at me and kept quiet. And I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. I felt a little paralyzed. And I felt happy for her because I realized she got what she wanted. And I got to see that she was successful. So whatever we did in therapy, I don't remember. It's just that way, you know. I got trained so that it doesn't work. I don't even remember unless I got the chart in front of me and opened up, which is nice because you don't want to take your work home with you. But that was one of the times I got to see success. And she was happy. And she was following him around like a madly in love puppy dog. And, I mean, I appreciated what she had gotten for herself. And she had actually started to put on a little bit of weight, which looked good on her too, by the way. She was just too thin. I don't know if she was on stimulants or not. I don't remember that. I just remember the family dynamics were a little awkward, to say the least. And she was not in a great position there. I know that I'm pretty sure she paired up with this young man and married him and got out of that house, which was the best thing for her. Now, as far as the Ten Commandments go and YouTube, they don't like them. They don't like a lot of things about my videos. So they suppress it. They will not upload things that they don't want up there. I did the United States of America is dedicated to Moloch. I did that show and they wouldn't allow that to go up. So at this point, my consequences are I can't upload for 2 weeks on the other channel, Awakening Israel. So I'm going to be looking at another platform to go to, one in which I actually have free speech rights and can feel like a, dare I say, a white man again. So I can feel like a free man, feel like a citizen for a change instead of a slave. Look, folks, this war that they're waging is really massive. And you may think it's strictly psychological because that's all that's happening. No. They're going way beyond that. They've been going way beyond that. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to point out here. See this? It's the color coming back in my hair. We're all of us suffering from nutritional deficiencies. Even in the United States of America, even in the good old USA, we're underfed. We don't get proper nutrition. And this was all gray and all white, and I was satisfied with it because it all looked good. But now it's showing up dark on the sides again, looking kind of like a bozo look. I don't really like this look very well. I like the uniform thing that, didn't stand out. But that's coming back. And that's because of copper deficiency. I've been using the salt from Hawaii that looks black. And it has got all kinds of minerals in it. And you are the salt of the earth really has a significant meaning to it. And you earn a salary, which comes from the word salt as well. Are you worth your salt? Are you worth your salary? And civilizations used to go to war, fight, and die over salt deposits because they knew that meant life or death. Today, we're so detached from the earth, so detached from ourselves, that we don't realize the detriments on these things. And by the way, I recently found out that there was a population on the planet that was living for 200 years until this last century. And then we knocked their lifespans down to 45 years. They were living 180 to 200 years in the Marshall Islands. Paradise, really. And the Bible says, well, forgive me, I guess I'm not supposed to be talking about that, but sorry, it's part of me. I'm not giving that up for YouTube. Anyway, in the Bible in Genesis, it says that man shall no longer live as long as what we lived before. I think Noah was 500 or 600 years old when the flood occurred. But our lifespans would be limited to 120 years. Well, that was that type of human being the Bible was referring to. There was another type of human being on the planet the Bible refers to with a different set of terms. And those were the human beings that were on the planet first, before Adamkind was placed here. You see, Adam was placed here about last. Even the devils, the fallen angels, were here way before Adam was. A buddy of mine told me it was 70,000 years. I think it's more like 72,000 years. I think we're at the end of an Earth age. And in case you're wondering, some tips on that. There was another pastor who, oh my God, he had a riveting voice. And he didn't cite, at least I didn't see him citing any Bible, any scriptural stuff for the longest time. And then I met one of his lead students over in Virginia who described himself as a teacher's teacher. He had a lot to say, but I met him at a real rough time in his life. He was getting evicted and having all kinds of problems. So he was coming apart pretty badly. I wish I'd have done a little bit more to shore him up. I wish I had done a little bit more to shore him up. That's all I can say. And he revealed probably way too much to me. I'm not practicing anymore. I don't want to be practicing anymore. I wouldn't mind working again, but there's got to be a paycheck involved. Sorry, I do like that. It does help. I like to earn my keep. I like to think I'm worth something. Having a salary gives a man value. Work is therapy, especially for a man. No, women, you should be at the home protected. You should be taking care of your children, taking care of your man, taking care of your household, and taking care of yourself. And I think that's a lot more on your plate than what men can handle, to be honest with you. We don't multitask very well. You do. You know, you've got extra capacities given to you for the purposes of motherhood. And when you misuse those extra capacities, you drive yourself nuts. Okay, you're doing that to yourself. So as much as you want to blame others, just sit and stop and ask yourself, what's my anxiety doing there? Why do I have this much anxiety? What is in my best interest? Slow yourself down and ask that. What is in my best interest? And then do that. Don't just react. Don't just, have a fit, go berserk. Go emotional, indulge in the license that you've been granted by the society to shit all over everybody else. Straighten up. We have to fight this battle spiritually. We can't use any of our arms. They have such weapons that they can use on us, and they want to murder us. They want to have an excuse to exterminate us because they consider us not even as high as the rats. They consider us to be bugs. They don't think of us as being human beings. They have got us so well cut off from ourselves, from each other, from Yahweh, Creator, Father God, that they've got us right where they want us. So if you want to fight back, go to the link down below. Buy one of those 5 different formats of Bibles. This is the best Bible available today. It's in the English language, modern English. We correct the errors in the original King James, which were secondary to Ptolemy's mistake in about 275 BC. So for a long time, the world has been living under some falsehoods and some fallacies. The evil one and his children have been deceiving all y'all, all of us. That includes me. And so you have to come out of these deceptions, and it's going to be a real fight. Talk about trying to get your way out of a wet paper bag, or can't fight your way out of a wet paper bag, so to speak. You read this Bible, and you really just read it for the stories. Push your way through it. Don't try to go deeply into anything on it. Just read it through, and the theme will come up to you as you just glance through it initially, and you'll probably need to read it again a couple more times. You can tune into this channel, or you can tune into my other channel when I'm allowed to have it back on YouTube. But I may not be gracing YouTube much longer. Why should I give them good content when they don't appreciate it? It's just like anybody else has abused me in the past. Why should I be submitting to the abuser like this? So YouTube is very abusive. They don't support free speech at all, and they should be run out of the United States of America based upon that. They shouldn't be allowed to do any business inside of our borders because they don't abide by the First Amendment, by the first of our Bill of Rights. Very un-American. Anyway, maybe YouTube will listen to this and take this stuff to heart. Somebody there's got to have a mind, have a brain, and be curious and be listening. I hope. Anyway, they didn't like the Ten Commandments and they took it down. They claimed it was because I violated the World Health Organization's consensus on, I don't remember what it was, and I probably shouldn't mention it because I might get another strike, knowing how fickle YouTube is. I know that we're all stressing. My own breath as I tune into it right now lets me know my anxiety level. And the anxiety level that's out there is pretty bad as well. They're cranking it up on us. They're going to ratchet it as tightly as they can. They want you to go nuts. They want you to go off the deep end. They want you to have a cow, conniption, a fit. They want you to go violent. They want you to rebel against them. And remember, Yahweh does not bless rebellion. He blesses self-defense. So unless you are willing to turn this into a war of self-defense, you're going to lose. So how do you do that? Well, you abide by the most brilliant of presidents over this nation. The one that you all deserved. Barack Insane Obama. And they certainly don't like me telling you the truth about him. Barack Obama got his name from the Bible. Go look up the word Barak, B-A-R-A-Q, in the Bible, and you will see where they pulled, and I'm talking the CIA and the people that put Barak together and did all that to us. You will see where they pulled from the Bible and what his name really means and his life's purpose. You see, folks, they're taking down the United States of America, and Barack Insane Obama was their big pathway to do it. So Barack is a brilliant man, and he set this whole thing up to destroy us. And they've got it set up so that if there's a nuclear war, we get nuked first and completely and wholly, and we wait a day before we even respond. So he set it up so that the other party is rewarded for doing a first strike. They are tempted to do a first strike on us, and that's how vulnerable we are right now. And these stupid jackasses that talk about this war over in the Middle East, well, not quite the Middle East, but it's going there. You know, I'm talking O'Reilly, talking about how easy it would be to destroy Vladimir Putin and all that. These guys are traitors. They're treasonous, traitorous rat bastards. They're CIA Mockingbird operation. They're there doing their controlled opposition, doing their brainwashing work, convincing you, oh yeah, we can destroy them. We just got to step up to the plate. You got to understand something. They want the excuse to launch the nukes on this country. You are the target. The Ukraine's not the target. Russia is not the target. You are the target. You need to understand the bastards in D.C. are working to destroy you on behalf of the people that run the planet. They made that decision quite a while ago. Even that rat bastard, traitorous, controlled opposition, Alex Jones gets things right once in a while. Even the blind sow gets the acorn once in a while. They want to destroy us, and they're doing a really good job. They're destroying our food processing plants. Yeah, they're doing that on purpose. They're destroying our poultry supply under false, I dare not say science because I might get in trouble again. I think they're inventing a lot of reasons and excuses to go in and cut the food supply back. And you've got the same group of men running free on the planet today that have committed high treason, that have committed mass, I don't know, genocides even probably. You need to look this stuff up and do your own research. I'm afraid to say too much here. They don't like me much. I don't think they want me around. But the fact is that if you give them an excuse, they're going to spray you like bugs. They're going to exterminate your asses. That's all there is to it. They got the weapons to do it. You think your guns and gunpowder is any good? They actually can send a doggone frequency out there that pretty much makes those things too hot to handle. Hell, they probably could even get the ammunition to go off inside of the gun from a distance. What good would that do you? Not very good at all if that steel turns into shrapnel there, like a little grenade in your arms as you're holding your warm gun. Happiness is a warm gun. Bang, bang, shoot, shoot. The Beatles song. It was talking about drugs back then. Happiness was a warm syringe as those guys were doing their dope, encouraging you guys to do your dope. By the way, that music industry that came out of Laurel Canyon, that was all a CIA operation. Marilyn Monroe, the sex kitten, that was all CIA. Every bit of this stuff has been controlled. Don't kid yourself. Nothing happens by accident. It's all done on purpose. So the sooner you start cutting down this big federal government, the better. The first thing you do is you ignore it. The second thing is you starve it of funding. You get rid of it. Homeland Security, what good do they do? Department of Agriculture paying farmers to plow their crops under. What good does that do? Whatever it is that controls your water supply and makes sure you get your daily dose of poison through it. What good does that do? You are living in a land foretold by the prophets, the land of bitter waters. Go read your Bible. Look it up. The land of bitter waters. Rivers of bitter waters. That's North America today. You see, it's been illegal to do that stuff to water in Europe for more than 2 decades. They recognize it for the poison it is, so they won't let themselves be subjected to it. But here in the United States, you dumbasses will put up with anything. You know, my family, oh, it never hurt us. Doesn't harm a fly. Wouldn't listen to me. Would not listen to me. Too busy lording it over me and abusing me to think I had anything to tell them about. They're paid the price. You know, this family is not going to be on the planet anymore. Nobody's carrying the name on it except for a black guy with the last name of Kent. He gets to carry the family name on. What can I say? There were actually 2 boys born to that couple, and the youngest one went through the ice years ago, and so there's only one left. I'm pretty sure that he's got grandchildren today. I don't know where he's at. I don't think I ever met him. Met his father at my grandmother's funeral. They were descended through my great uncle. Man, that guy traveled the world quite a bit and got around quite a bit. I didn't see him very often. He only showed up a couple of times. Oh my Lord, I can't even remember his name. He had been to Alaska before the rest of us had. He'd been there back when it was a territory, well before statehood. Lost his hand in a sawmill accident up there. George, Uncle George. By George. George is a famous name, isn't it? Isn't that the name of the magazine that Mr. Kennedy, John Fitzgerald Kennedy's son, founded? Why did he choose the name George for his magazine? Is it because he wanted to tell the world something about George? Did George do something? Maybe George oversaw an operation of triangulated gunfire in a particular place in Texas, in a little plaza there. Might he not be trying to tell you who the murderer of his father was? That was just one of them, folks. Everybody was against him. They all wanted him dead, and they got him dead. And they took over our nation at that point. They felt invincible. They even published the truth in their Bibles, in the titles of the different sections, that they were going to start a war between Christendom and the Muslims. That was part of their big plans. In case you're wondering, those plans were written up during the time of the Civil War, if not before. They pulled it off to a large extent. How many Iraqis did we murder? Did we kill unjustly? How many Afghanis did we kill unjustly? I don't know, folks, but the God of War must be awfully happy with the corporate United States of America. By the way, that corporation started in 1871 with the Organic Act, and that purpose of that act was to separate that little jurisdiction at 10 square miles of Washington, D.C., and it only had authority to rule over those 10 square miles. They weren't supposed to reach out beyond that. But they sure as hell have, haven't they? They got the whole planet covered today. They'll send our boys out there to kill anybody. And they give them the weapons, everything they can do to whack a lot of people. They can create earthquakes. They can create tsunamis, tidal waves. They do weather wars. They do all kinds of psychological operations against our own people. All kinds of stuff. There's no limit to their power. Who can do battle with them? In the Bible it says, who can do battle with them? Well, folks, you can't fight this government. You can't take it down. You have to just take the energy away from them. You have to ignore them, and you have to marginalize them, ostracize them, and pathologize them. They are sick bastards, sick son of a bitches down there. Man, I found some stuff about Leon Panetta. He's one of the worst guys on the whole planet. There's a lot of bad ones down there. You need to realize that just assume they're all bad. You're going to come up with a handful, maybe 2 handfuls, that are okay at times. But even those who claim they're conservatives, they get bought off too. In Alaska, there used to be some cartoons that come out of Juneau. The guy would wear a hat and says, "I am bought off." No spaces in it, all one word. The "I am bought off" party. And then we had a governor step in, and the first year she kicked ass and cleaned up that stuff. She did a really good job when she got into office. Unfortunately, she got a little carried away, and her character flaws started to surface. They put too much stress and strain on her, and that's what happens. That happens to everybody. When they go after you the way they went after Sarah, that happens to all of us. When we are under the same set of undue circumstances. I know they did it to me when I was working last. They all ganged up. And believe me, there's nothing like the board of psychologist examiners in every state dominated by liberal assholes who are going to make sure that they get their way and they get to corrupt this country and screw it over even more. And the symbol for psychology is the Greek letter psi. PSI. What does that stand for? It stands for chaos. It stands for the underworld. It stands for Neptune. It stands for taking down things. And that's exactly what we do for the keepers of the planet. We manage the plantation for the owners. There are more psychologists and social scientists who are not licensed working behind the scenes for big government, big corporations, than there are people with license holders. And in our institutions, we are not allowed to be fully educated because they don't want us telling the people the truth. They don't want us discovering the truth. They don't want us to know about all the bullshit they pull behind the scenes and how they control this nation and the rest of the planet. Yes, folks, I declared a long time ago, we are supposed to establish the kingdom of heaven upon the earth. It's supposed to happen here. And your eternal life, well, you got children. That's how it gets carried on. They actually inherit more from you than what you really believe. You're told that we're all the same, we're all equal. No, we're not. I mean, when your fathers have good character and do good things, that actually gets encoded into their genetic material. And I can't go into it here because we might get into the other stuff I talked about that caused me to get a strike. But generally speaking, your intelligence is inherited from your mom. That's your global system, operating system, if you will. That's your hardware. That's what you got to work with, your raw material. And so some of us don't have much raw material, okay? That's just the way it is. You've got limitations. You're not going to be, okay? And then you got the encoding that your Father gives you, which is your character, in case you're wondering. And that is a learned thing. Whatever he did in his life gets passed on. That's just my take on things, folks. I might have it wrong. You look into it yourself. I've been around for a couple of years now. You know, I know a thing or two. And I know that I don't know much. I know that there's vast limitations to my knowledge and to my understanding. My people perish for lack of knowledge. You read your Bible, you find out that you need to tune into Yahweh and Yahweh's will, and Yahweh will bless you when you abide by his word. He will bless you, and it will feel effortless. He will fight for you, and you won't even realize it. You'll be defended. He'll send his ministers, his angels that are in good standing, that are still part of the first estate, that haven't abandoned him, and they will help you. You won't see it. Maybe you will. I get to see things once in a while. I got to see it when the guy came for my puppy dog. I didn't like it, and he meant business, and I saw him coming, and I knew there was no stopping him. My dog was 15 years old, and there was nothing I could do. I knew he had to do it. I knew that my dog, my big boy, had earned his way. I don't know what the reward is for puppy dogs, but whatever it was, he got it. He earned it. And they took him. They took him from me, and they gave me another dog. Born the same day they took him, by the way. I miss my puppy dog. You can tell it's an old childhood wound from way long ago. Anyway, folks, love those around you that are close to you while you can. You never know when will be the last time you will speak with them. You just don't realize when that is. Sometimes you will get an inkling, as I do, quite often, but usually I don't. Usually it's in arrears. I look back and say, wow, that was the last time I was going to talk with that person, and I didn't know, or I would have said something. I would have said something else, something profound. I wish I had loved a little bit more, is what I generally say. But some of those people really don't deserve it. And that's been a problem for me, is recognizing that and getting the hell away from them. I want you to do better than I've done. I want you to be more than what I've become. If you're a budding psychologist out there, I need you to understand that you have a world of knowledge to discover, which they're not going to give you in those universities. And they're going to do their best to blindside you and keep you ignorant of. And these models that we have are absolutely horrible negative projective practices that we put off on our clients. And most of us need to realize that our diagnosis for them is our own stress reaction to what this other person in front of us is going through. It ain't their stress reaction, it's ours. So we project our shit on them, those unsuspecting victims of our science. This should be number 106. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here. I'm going to find another place for my videos where I am actually welcome and I can speak freely. You always seem to like my flow of consciousness. You know, the loose associations, the rich associations, the flow of consciousness rather than a structured show. And that's just my style. That just seems to be what works between you and I. You know, that's what Michael Savage was doing in contrast to Rush Limbaugh. And every time I prepared for a show, I'd had papers and notes together and was going to rustle the papers. I did that a time or two, like Rush Limbaugh did. Couldn't do it. And by the way, he was controlled opposition. He might as well face that fact. I understand he never voted. I also know for a definite fact that he never mentioned the bad guys at all. He kept you distracted so you would not realize who they are. You would not realize who owns you, who runs you, who controls the United States of America today. He wouldn't ever bring that up. And you don't become syndicated in this nation without worshiping them, to be quite frank. You know, the devil wants to take Yahweh's place. And so you have to worship the devil and the devil's children in order to be syndicated from coast to coast. I say that's true for everybody out there, including Dan Borgino. So I probably will start addressing these talk show guys one at a time to let them know about their high treason against the government, against this people. Most of it's unwitting, so I'm going to call them out on it with the hope they'll wake up and they'll stop doing it. It's going to get me some fame, more attention, which maybe I don't need, but I need to sell a lot more Bibles. I need a job. I need to get some work done for this country. Things are in bad shape now, and the evil ones are going to shake it up even more. And not only are they going to shake it up, but Yahweh is going to shake up the planet quite a bit more. You have this earthquake on the other side of the planet right now. It will break out on this side of the planet as well. This whole thing is a balancing act, in case you're wondering. And so that ring of fire is going to be coming alive, pretty much. Japan probably will be the next one to get shaken, and then after that, Alaska usually comes in line. That's just the way it is. Anchorage, unfortunately, is on top of 3 different fault zones. 3 of them run through Cook Inlet, right down through the valleys there. I used to duck hunt in the marsh out there, right where those 3 faults converge. And there's a deep one underneath Anchorage. So downtown is probably going to go down into the earth. It sunk before. The other side of 4th Avenue sunk before. It's lower for a reason. And the prophecies about Mount Susitna, I hope that doesn't become fulfilled. And that is basically at the end, Mount Susitna will stand up. She, the sleeping, I don't know if she was a goddess or a princess or what, but she will stand up and walk the face of the earth. You ever look out at Mount Susitna across from the inlet from Anchorage? It's a huge, huge mountain. And for that thing to stand up like a sleeping giant and walk the face of the earth, that's massive. And if that's happening, you can bet other mountain ranges will be thrown into the air or thrown out of the earth, formed maybe 600 miles away. When I was a little boy, I read those books, and some of those mountain ranges had their origins 600 miles away. So just imagine the force necessary to lift and to hurl those mountains 600 miles away. Sure beats the hell out of your nuclear bombs and your atomic weapons. They're nothing compared to that. We are definitely coming to the end of an Earth age. It's not over for the Earth, not at all. It's not going to be good for the people on the surface or anything on the surface, honestly. There will be winners and losers. It's a giant crapshoot. And we don't know what's going to be coming up out of the oceans, land. We don't know what's going to be going down below the oceans, land. We don't know which city it is that's going to break off and go into the sea, but some of my brothers have been reporting the same doggone vision all over the place. We know what city it is, by the way. They're going to take that old branch with it, too. That thing they do their magic by, that Hollywood. Yeah, that city's going. It's happening in a big scale. Anybody want to buy any oceanfront property in Arizona? A deep sea harbor port, maybe? You want to be able to bring your ships in to the deep sea port in Arizona, to the new capital for the new lands, to the new capital for America, Yeah, folks, a lot of stuff is coming down. The year is 2046. You've got time to live your lives, time to enjoy. And there's nothing you can do when it comes about. It is so fast. It is so extensive. All you can do is pray to Yahweh that He puts you in the right place to get you through it. That's your defense. It is Yahweh. You have no other choice. You must be led by the Spirit, by the Holy Spirit. It's going to be rough on the survivors. So those of us who don't make it, remember that the survivors are going to be real tough guys. And the earth produces stronger children at the beginning of the earth age and weaker men at the end of an earth age. Where do I get that from? The angel informing Ezra in the biblical books which need to be restored to their rightful place. Yahweh bless. That's all I have for you. I got to look up the numbers and make sure I get it right. I think this is going to be 106 instead of 105. Oh, I'll look it up and get it right. I didn't prepare for this one. Maybe it's one of my better shows. You let me know in the comments, and you share the hell out of this video. You need to get it around. You need to bless your fellow men so that they can come alive and might be able to prepare. Because the great day of Yahweh, there's about a half a dozen of them in the Bible. There's not just one. There's 6 different things in the Bible at least. But I don't think we want to cover that right now. Yahweh bless. Over and out.